Today I'm going to teach you how to level up your AWS skills. And that is going to be through AWS IAM Identity Center. And it is important that you learn this because the whole world is looking for cloud security skills. I mean, just go ahead and check out any of these job postings. You see a huge list of them. And you'll be saying, why should I learn it from Mr. Hackerloy? Aren't you a hacker? Aren't you supposed to be teaching hacking? Why are you teaching about AWS security? And yes, while I'm a pro hacker, I'm also AWS 12 times certified. So who else but me to learn AWS from? Now, the first thing you need is go ahead and open up Kali Linux. Well, just kidding. You can also use Windows XP if you want to. And then go ahead and start up your favorite browser. So in this case, favorite browser could be, say, Firefox, or it could be, say, Internet Explorer. Whichever the case is, it's fine, as long as you can access the console. Now, what you do is head over to the AWS Management Console page. And once you're here, go ahead and click onto Sign In. And once you click on to Sign In, you can see the following. We have the account ID or account alias, IAM username, as well as password to log right in. Now, as you can see right here, we have the account ID or account alias. We have the IAM username as well as a password. Go ahead and click Sign In. And now we're signing in. We're logging in to the management console. And once we're in here, we are first accessing into the AWS account through the IAM user. And that is something that I highly discourage you from doing. And in fact, we should move over, especially for users or employees or IT administrators, or users who are interacting with AWS resources. I highly recommend that you set up AWS IAM Identity Center for them instead. So click over into AWS IAM Identity Center. And once you're here, head over to the region that you're going to set up IAM Identity Center on. So in this case, I have selected onto AP Southeast 1. So this is Singapore. This is the place where I am residing in. And this is also the place where majority of my workloads are running on. And once you're ready, just go ahead and click onto Enable. And you can see right here, we're now enabling the AWS IAM Identity Center. And it will be ready in a few seconds time. And once we have that, that gives us an additional access path into the AWS account and also the set of AWS accounts that you have across your AWS organizations. Now, going back in time, a little bit of a history lesson here. Number one, decades ago, when you first used AWS, the only way to access into the AWS accounts was through what we call as AWS IAM user. So this is where you create the IAM user in your AWS account, and then they are able to access into the AWS account through the login page, and they have direct access over into the AWS account. And of course, over time, companies, enterprises started growing, and they started creating more AWS accounts. And as a result of that, they needed something else. And they would also have something called an identity provider. And this identity provider would be better known by you right now for companies like Okta, like Entra, which is from Microsoft. And these companies would hold the directory or the list of users within their store. And as a result of that, they need some kind of integration directly with the AWS account. And as a result of that, we come up with IAM Federation. So now IAM Federation is available. It means that we can integrate that. So we can have the users being able to access into the AWS account, and you can set it up. However, there is still something that needs to be done, is that you have numerous AWS accounts, and you need to set it up every time for each of the AWS accounts. So why not have IAM Identity Center that would allow you to set it up once, and you'll be able to access into all of these AWS accounts while at the same time having the integration once with the identity provider that you existingly have in place. Here I am heading over to AWS Identity and Access Management, IAM. And I click over into IAM users, and you can see right here, we have a user with a username of Hackerloy. And this was how we logged in earlier. And of course, you notice that we have to create or recreate this user for all of the AWS accounts that we have. Imagine you have 5,000 AWS accounts. And if you want to access each of them, you needed to create a IAM user for each of this account. And what if one of them change a different password, one of them have a different username, one of them left the company, and so on and so forth. So it's difficult to manage at scale. And that's the whole idea where Identity Center comes in to help us solve this problem. Additionally, when you see at the bottom left, I have identity providers. And this is the place where we set up IAM Federation. And it works for each of the AWS account by itself, but not for your whole AWS organizations or AWS accounts. So, which is why the purpose of Identity Center helps solve this problem by giving you central access management across all of your AWS accounts, particularly useful for user access. And you can see right here, we have created the organization instance of IAM Identity Center. So we're ready to make use of this. So once you're right here, you have the dashboard. And the dashboard will give you central management. All right, you have the following information of service control policies, monitor activities in your instances of your IAM Identity Center, and so on and so forth. So the good thing is the identity source. You have a couple of options. Option one is you can use the identity source directly from IAM Identity Center. So all you got to do is just head over to users from IAM Identity Center, and you can begin creating users directly here. Or you can integrate it with your existing identity provider. So in this case, we can easily say click add user, and we can give a username. So maybe I give it hacker Loy. All right, so this username is different from the IAM user that we've created earlier. These are IAM roles, and I can give it an email address. So in this case, maybe I give it the following email address, and we have another email address once more. And there's also a generate one-time password, send an email to this user with password setup instructions. Okay, whichever the case is, let's give the first name hacker, the last name of Loy. Okay, so once you scroll all the way down, you can add in additional details like contact methods, job-related information, and so on and so forth. Go ahead and click onto next. All right, you can add this user to group, and we've not yet created a group, so we'll create it later on. Go ahead and click next. Once you're done, go ahead and click add user. So now we have created a user, and the user will receive an email with a link to set up password instructions to connect to the AWS Access Portal. So very straightforward. And what I can do now is I can go over to my email and go ahead and open it up. And now I've gotten the email. You can see the email right here. Let's see if we can see it easily. Your administrator for AWS account has invited you to AWS IAM Data Center. Accepting this invitation activates your user account, and so on and so forth. So once you're ready, just go ahead and click onto that accept invitation. And all we got to do is enter our new password as well as confirm on the password, as you can see right here. Okay, so once we do that, you're good to go. So now I've completed the registration process for the user. I can click onto the username right here, and you can see the profile, the username, verified, and so on and so forth. So we got all the information about this user. And what I can do now is, it doesn't mean that this user has access to the AWS accounts across your AWS organization. It only means that there is this user that exists within this identity store. So what we need to do next is to provide permissions. And the first place we need to do that is go over into permission sets. And in permission sets, what we want to do here is to create policies. So it's very similar to IAM policies. You can create a lot of IAM policies, but they're not effective yet until you assign a user or role to those policies. All right, so what we can see here is this are policy definition. All right, so create permission set, and there are two options. The first option are what we call as predefined permission set. So these are things that are out of the box. So you have your AWS managed policies, you have administrator access, billing, and so on and so forth. So if these managed policies fit your criteria, fit your need, you can just use it directly from here. If not, you can create custom permission sets. So custom permission sets are pretty interesting. So this is where you can mix and match different kind of AWS managed policies. So these managed policies would exist directly inside those AWS accounts. Like you have administrator access, you have device setup, Alexa, and so on and so forth. And you can select different services and all those different accesses to those different services. So you can mix and match them up together. Okay. And next up, we have customer managed policies. So this is very interesting because it allows us to use policies that exist inside the AWS account. So you can reference to it. So in this case, you have to attach a customer managed policy to your permission set, and you must specify the policy name exactly as it appears in the IAM console. And that means when you're assigning the permission set for a specific user to an AWS account, that policy must have already exist in the IAM service inside that AWS account. I will demonstrate that to you later. And this really eases up things because when you are transitioning from your IAM user, IAM federation over into Identity Center, you would likely have some policies that already exist. So by using customer managed policies, you can directly reference to that and you can reuse it without having to write, say, a completely new policy in itself. Next up, with inline policy. And for inline policy, you can expand on it. It directly attaches this policy into the IAM role created inside the AWS member accounts. And we'll even take a look at it later on. Last but not least are permissions boundary. And permissions boundary are really interesting because what it does is that it allows you to constrain a very powerful user typically. And in situations where you are going to allow someone the power, the ability to create IAM policies, IAM users, attachment of permission sets, and so on and so forth, you typically want to restrict them because they could attach with themselves ***. So they have all actions against all resources, and you want to restrict that. So even if you attach full administrator access, they will still be constrained. So perhaps you only allow them, say, EC2 or S3 policies, so they're constrained by those policies that you set forth in permissions boundary. And you can see right here, this is a permissions boundary, set a permission boundary. It was managed policy, customer managed policy, once again. So this is something that you can set forth. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to scroll up. I'm going to go over AWS managed policies, and I'm going to provide administrator access. Okay, so you can use a combination of all these different managed policies directly from AWS. And once you're ready, just scroll all the way down, click onto next. All right, give it a name. So I put administrator access. Okay, and then you have a description. You have session duration. So for how long do you want to allow the user before they log out of their session? So in this case, I'm going to put, say, 12 hours. And relay state. Relay state is very interesting too. So once a user log in, you're able to redirect them to, say, the EC2 service page, redirect them to S3 service page, depending on what is the use case for them. Okay? And once you're ready, go ahead and click next. Scroll all the way down. And once you're ready, just go ahead and click create. So you're done. You have now created a permission set, a policy definition. But this does not mean that the user already have a permission. The user that we just created, Hacker Loy, it doesn't mean that he already has permission. What we need to do now is to assign it. So we can head over to, say, AWS accounts. And I'm going to assign this user the permission set to the target AWS accounts. So in my case, I'm going to give you access to, say, Sandbox. I'm going to give you access to the management account. I'm going to give you access to the audit account, to the log archive account. Why? Because I trust you. I trust Mr. Hacker Loy. And I go ahead and click assign users or groups. So in this case, I have a user, and this user is Hacker Loy. I scroll all the way down. I click onto next, and I select the permission set that we have created. So in this case, administrator access. Once I'm ready, I click onto next. I scroll all the way down. I click submit. And what is happening right now is that it's going over into the AWS accounts and it's creating IAM roles for it so that it can assume a role into the AWS account. Okay, so we reprovision AWS account successfully and applied the updated permission set to the accounts. So right now, remember, we are still on IAM user. We have not yet switched over into and logging in through the identity center. So let's go ahead and do that now. So all we got to do is head back over to the dashboard of IAM Identity Center. You scroll down, and as you scroll down, you will see something here called the AWS Access Portal. Let's go ahead and copy this, copy link, and I'm going to log in, say, using Chrome. All right, let's go ahead and do just that. I'm going to copy and I paste. I'm going to hit enter on that. And let me just go ahead and set up this one. Just a second, please. So you can see right here, I have the username. So go ahead and enter Hacker Loy, click next, enter the password, click sign in, and right now we are signing in. Okay, so it states the following. Your organization requires multi-factor authentication for added security during sign-in. Each time you sign in, you'll be prompted for your password and MFA device. Select one of the options to get started. Let's go ahead and select Authenticator app. Click next on that. All right, install either Google Authenticator, Duo Mobile, off the app, and so on and so forth. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go ahead and scan the QR code for this to set up my authentication. Okay, I set up my Authenticator app right now. I'm going to enter my Authenticator code. So in this case, I'm going to enter on that, assign MFA. So done. Authenticator app registered. Click done. And now we are going to log in. And while you're logging in, you see something very interesting right here, which is the following. These are the AWS accounts that I have access to. And when I expand on it, I'll be able to see, for example, I have access to the administrator role in the developer Loy account. I have administrator access to, say, Loy Liang Yang. So, and when I clicked onto it, I'll be able to log into the account using the administrator access managed policy that's created inside. All right, so in my case, I am using the AWS managed policy, right, that we have selected earlier. And what I can do now is I can show you how it looks like. I can head over into IAM, which is Identity and Access Management. I clicked onto that. And I can see on the left side, there are the IAM roles. So I click on the roles. And you can see the following. I can enter Administrator Access, and I can see the following of AWS Reserve SSO, Administrator Access. I go in and clicked onto this one. You can see the following information. We have the permissions policies. So we have Administrator Access. The trust relationships, in this case, you can see the following. Okay, we have the principal. All right, so we have the ARN of the following, and then followed by the SAML provider, AWS SSO, and then assume of a SAML, tag session, and so on and so forth. So this is how we're able to log in to the AWS account using IAM Identity Center. Now I am in the AWS member account. In this case, I'm going to show you how to create a custom policy. So I create a policy. In this case, maybe I am going to select onto EC2, which are your virtual service. And what I can do now is perhaps I select onto all read actions. Okay, so that could be very different specific kind of custom policies that you have that you're going to define and create for different roles, different users who are accessing your AWS accounts. And with that, as you scroll down further, okay, once you're ready, you can select onto the resources. So maybe some specific resources, certain request conditions. So once you're ready, you click into next. Okay, and in this case, I'm going to call this the custom policy. All right, and once I have the custom policy right here, you can give it a description and whatnot. So you scroll down further, you create policy. So now you've created a policy. It means that this policy exists inside this AWS account. And what we're going to do now is we're going to head back over to IAM Identity Center, which is in the AWS management account. You can also delegate this to a separate account if you need to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a permission set that will allow us to set that up. And I have just tested it for you. So I'm going to delete this now. Okay, custom policy, click delete. And I head back over to permission sets. And I'm going to click on to create permission set. Okay, so in this case, we'll select onto custom permission set, click next. And this is the part, customer manage policy, attach policy. So in this case, the policy that exists inside developer Lloyd's account or the member account is custom policy. And you would have rolled this down through your infrastructure as code, or you have created them into the different AWS accounts and they exist within them. So you're able to reference from it. So once you're ready, you scroll all the way down and click on the next. You give this permission set a name. So I'll call this custom policy. Okay, and once I'm ready, I can scroll all the way down. I can set a session duration. I have the relay state if I need to. I click onto next. I scroll all the way down. I click create. So I'm now creating this permission set. And what I need to do next is, once again, I need to go over to the AWS account. All right, so in this case, I have the target account of developer Lloyd. I click assign users a group. So in this situation, it's going to be Hacker Lloyd once more. Okay, click next. And this time around, we are selecting the custom policy. Click next on that. Once you're ready, click submit. So it's going to the AWS account and it's going to create an IAM role for it. And we'll be able to access into that IAM role through this. So if I head back over into the following, right, we are in the member account and I can click onto roles. And in roles, I can refresh this and I can go ahead and search for reserved, all right, SSO. And you can see the following. This is now created, okay? So we have the following of AWS reserved SSO custom policy. I clicked onto this, and if you scroll down, you can see the following: custom policy, customer managed, and this is the policy that we created earlier. Okay, so it's referencing from it. And if I head back over into the login page, I do a refresh, and I expand onto developer law. You can see the following of custom policy, and I can go in and click on it, and now I'm signing in over to the account with this specific IAM role. And in this case, you can see that there's going to be a lot more restrictions. Okay, I'm going to head over to EC2, and again, if you recall earlier, the IAM policy was mainly just read-only, so we can see instances. That's why you can see all these different API failures, right? Because we're not authorized to view or perform all these different types of operations like describe instances, which belongs to listing instances. Next up, I'll be demonstrating to you for inline policy through permission set. So go ahead and click onto permission set, select onto custom permission set, click onto next. And right here, we have inline policy, and this is the part where we can create our own custom policy. that's attached directly to the IAM role in the AWS member accounts that you've assigned to later on. So what I can see here is I can say select a specific service as S3 for storage, select onto that, and let's give it, say, all actions. And right at the bottom, all right, we have the resource. So I can add a resource. In this case, I can select onto, say, all resource, or it could be specific buckets. Click add resource. And once you're done with that, scroll all the way down, click onto next. So let's give this a custom S3 custom permission set. All right, so once you're ready for this, just scroll all the way down with the session duration. And what I can enter here now is the relay state. So since this is only permission for S3, I'm going to give it the S3 console relay state. So you can see here, I've already filled in the values. All right, so AP service 1, console AWS Amazon.com S3. Click on to next. And once you're ready to scroll all the way down, click create. So now the permission set will be created, and all we got to do is start assigning permissions for the target AWS accounts for those users. So let's say I go to AWS accounts, and I hit over and target the sandbox account, and I click on to assign users or groups. So in this case, let's go over to users, and once again with Hacker Lloyd, click next, and the permission set in this case will be S3 custom permission set. Click on to next. All right, click on to submit. So now it is configuring the AWS account. Just give it a few more seconds and it'll be done. All right, so it states the following: we reprovision your AWS account successfully and applied the updated permission set to the account. So if I hit over into the access portal, all I gotta do is to refresh on this, and you can see under developer log, we have the S3 custom permission set. So I clicked onto it now, and you can see the following. All right, we are heading over to S3, and I can see the buckets over here. Okay, and however, if I was to navigate to other services, let's say into EC2, and I clicked onto it, you would see that it is not going to be available. So we have all these API errors. And what I want to show you now is if I go over into the administrator access in the developer account, and I head over to identity and access management, and from here, we'll be able to investigate. We'll be able to view the policy that's been created into the role. So if I click onto IAM roles, I enter the following reserved, or we can see the following of S3 custom permission set. Click onto that. You scroll down further, you can see right here, we have an inline policy that has been created, and this is based on the policy that we have set up inside the permission set. Now, relay state is pretty interesting too. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head over into the administrator access. So I'm going to developer log, I'm going to administrator access. And what I'll do is I'll change the IAM policy a little so it's much easier for us to know what's going on. So I'm heading over to IAM. I'm going over back into the custom policy. I'm going to give it now the full EC2 access. So what I'll do is head over into custom policy, and I'll go ahead and click onto custom policy. And from here, I'm going to attach a permission, or in other cases, I could be attaching other kind of permissions and whatnot. I click edit, and I can click on to say visual. And what we can do now is to select EC2, expand on that, actions allowed. I'm going to say all EC2 actions. Okay, so now we have all EC2 actions. I can scroll all the way down, all right, which is all these different actions that can be taken by this specific policy, and all resources. I click next on that, and I go ahead and click save changes. Okay, so now I've saved the changes, and what I can do is I can head back over into the IAM identity center. And what I can do now is I can head back over to permission sets, and I go over to custom policy. And in this case, the custom policy, what I will do is I will define the relay state. I go over to custom policy, I click edit onto it, and there is this option here called relay state optional. So let's go ahead and update this one. And you can see right here, I have the following relay state. So once the user logs in to the custom policy, they will be redirected to the AP Southeast 1 console/EC2. Okay, so once you're ready, just go ahead and click save changes. And what it will do now is head over and make the changes. And if I head back, once the changes have been made, all right, the settings for this permission set were updated successfully, I head back over into my other browser. I select onto developer log, and I click onto custom policy. So once I click on the custom policy, you can see that I'm automatically redirected to the EC2 service. And of course, in this case, we have the region of AP Service 1. As simple as that. Now, once you're in here, you can also go over to Identity Center, hit over to Settings. And in Settings, you can scroll all the way down. And there's something interesting you call Actions. And you can customize your AWS Access Portal URL. So you can call this maybe a subdomain. In this case, let's give it, say, Hacker Loy. And let's see what we get. I click Save. I'll type your subdomain to confirm. Hacker Loy again. Hopefully it works. We get this subdomain. I click Save on that. And great news. Hopefully we get this customized AWS Access Portal URL, which is much easier to remember. The AWS Access Portal URL was successfully updated. So we can access this now in order for us to log in. So if I hit over to this part, I copy and I paste it into a new tab. I hit enter on that. And you can see the following. We are being redirected to the login page. So username, we can enter Hackaloy, and we can log right in. Going back to settings, there's also something really interesting is we can change our identity source. So in this case, we're using the Identity Center's directory. All right, so everything, all the users, all the management of groups, all the permission sets will be managed directly from here. And we can easily change this over to something that you already have. So perhaps you have an existing identity provider where you have all this list of usernames, groups, and so on, all these users, and you want them to be synchronized over into AWS IAM Identity Center. And then after that, you manage its permission sets. Okay, so that can be done too. The other super cool trick that I want to teach you is command line interface access. So all I got to do is enter, say, AWS configure SSO, and you can see the following pop up: SSO start URL. So I can go ahead and paste the information here. I hit enter on that, and the region, let's enter AP Service 1. So this is the region that we have, and it pops up to us. Authorization requested. Okay, so you see the following: confirm this code matches the one given to you. All right, you can see right here, then enter the code. So once we have that, I click confirm and continue. And you see the following here. Okay, we have to sign in. Okay, let's go ahead and sign in as Hackaloy. Click next on that, enter the password. Click sign in. Okay, and we have MFA, which is a 6-digit code for my auth app. So let's go ahead and hit over into my authentication app. So let me go ahead and do just that. And we have the following of the MFA code. So let's go ahead and enter that. Click sign in, and it's redirecting, and so on and so forth. And allow access to your data. I go ahead and click allow, request approved. And if I hit back over into my command line, it's the following. All right, these are the AWS accounts that I have access to. And now what I can do is I can go ahead and say select onto developer Loy, and I'm going to select onto administrator access. Okay, and I'll enter the following of CLI default client region. So let's enter AP Service 1. I'll put JSON. Okay, profile as card admin, and done. Okay, and all I gotta do is enter AWS S3 LS profile admin, and now we'll be able to list the S3 buckets that exist within this AWS account. The next question you would have is perhaps if I was to enable IAM Identity Center, would it disable my IAM user access? The answer is no. They can both coexist at the same time so that you're able to set up the migration from IAM user access over into Identity Center. The next question you will have is, in what situation am I going to be using IAM user? And that's going to be a situation where the application do not yet support IAM role. And in that case, you need to provide some kind of access key, secret key to it. And what you can do then, while you are still providing them, you want to ensure that you have rotation for your IAM user access key and secret key. At the same time, you also want to set policy condition to ensure that it's only called from very specific IP addresses or VPCs so that you're able to restrict where and who can do those calls. And that's it. This is the end of the tutorial, and I hope you learned something useful, something valuable. Stay tuned for more AWS tutorials coming your way.